Hi there, smart drivers, talking to you tonight about how to pass your driver's test. And this is also for CDL people because one of the things that driving schools and driving instructors do not emphasize to CDL students is that all of the information and all of the skills and abilities for the lower class licenses apply to the higher class licenses. 70% of what you're going to learn in truck driving school about getting your license applies. All of that lower stuff, all the car stuff applies to that higher class license. It just is overlooked because many of the upgrading drivers already have a lot of that information, but it just needs to be honed and perfected for the purposes of a CDL license. So that's what we're talking about tonight. All right, Joe is here from Toronto and says that it's warm and raining there, and unfortunately they're going to have to close some of the ski hills. My friend Mallory is tuning in from the Maritimes. Evan is here from Washington State, has a question about getting his license there. Corey is here as well. Corey is the moderator and does an excellent job of getting up videos that I suggest you have a look at for further information on the answers to your questions, and keeps out the bad people because you tend to get spammed once you get to a certain level on YouTube. Elevator's tuning in from the Midwest in Monticello, Indiana, and not feeling well. I'm sorry to hear that. Get well soon, my friend. And so if you have any questions about passing a driver's test, any questions about defensive driving, smarter defensive driving, become a safer driver after you've had your license for a little bit and want some skills and upgrades, we can help you with that as well. And how to get your CDL license, what you need to do in this day and age of the MELT programs that are being implemented in both the United States and in Canada, the mandatory entry-level training, minimum required amount of time that you have to take to upgrade to become either a truck or bus driver. Tyrell is here. Thank you so much for your kind words, Tyrell. That is awesome, my friend. First thing you need to know about passing a driver's test is you need to know what is on the test at the test center where you're going to be taking your test. All right? You need to know whether you're going to parallel park. You need to know whether you're going to do three-point turns. You need to know whether you're going to do reverse stall parking, which is backing into the parking space at the test center. And almost every test is going to require you to do minimum parallel parking, backing into a parking space, and three-point turns. Those are the minimum three maneuvers that you need to do to pass your driver's test. 7/8 of the driver's test is in a forward motion, but it's those three maneuvers, it's the 1/8 of the driver's test that is going to give you the most grief. There are only three places that I know of that do not require you to parallel park, and there is all kinds of misinformation floating around that you don't have to parallel park in your state or in your province. That is misinformation. It is up to the discretion of the driving examiner as to whether he or she gets you to parallel park and do other slow speed maneuvers for the purposes of passing your driver's test. Know that, okay? If your friend says, oh, I didn't have to parallel park, don't think that that is carte blanche for the entire state or the entire province where you live. There are only three states in the U.S. that I know of that don't require you to parallel park. That is California, Ohio, and Maryland. Okay, California requires you to back up 50 feet along the curb, as does Oregon every now and again. Again, it's up to the discretion of the driving examiner. Ohio has the Ohio maneuverability test, which gives drivers no end of grief. And then Maryland requires you to do a 2-point reverse turn. So those are the only three states that I know of that do not require you to parallel park for the purposes of your driver's test. And there has been rumors that Nevada is eliminating the parallel park as well because it's too hard for drivers to pass the driver's test. And I certainly hope that you see the irony in that. So there you go. Elevator fan, not wearing a seatbelt is an automatic fail in a driver's test. Yes, elevator fan, because wearing a seatbelt is the law in every province, every state in the U.S. So you have to wear a seatbelt because it's the law. Christy, hello, happy New Year, best wishes. You are always amazing, from Christy Richmond Hill. Thank you, Christy, for your kind words. Happy New Year's to you as well, my friend. Colton, high prices either get better or worse. Yeah, we just hope that that prices and inflation don't go any higher. My friend Sherry is here as well. I don't think I could pass without your videos. That's awesome. So happy we can help out, Sherry. That's great news. Carpe Diem, just took the exam today. Unfortunately, I failed. Carpe Diem, what was the feedback you got on your driver's test? What did the examiner say? Sheldon, hello, my friend. Any tips if I want to take my driving test on the 4th of July? Sheldon, it's probably going to be difficult for you to take your test on the 4th of July because it's going to be a holiday in... Are you taking... Sorry, I'll back up, Sheldon. It's not going to be a holiday in Canada if you're taking it in Canada, but if you're in the States, it's going to be a holiday in the United States, so you won't be able to take it then. All right, CS. If I'm in a turn lane and it is a flashing yellow, should slowly move up to the middle of the intersection. No, you shouldn't. Watch the video on left turns. Stay with your front steer tires on the front crosswalk line. And I was thinking about this today. Do not be in the intersection. Okay, I know that there are some states, there are some provinces that are teaching students to move into the intersection. I disagree. It is not best practices for defensive driving. You want to wait with your front steer tires on the front crosswalk line. That way, if somebody runs the traffic light, you're not going to get T-boned sitting and waiting in the intersection. Keep in mind, 40%, more than 40% of traffic crashes happen at intersections. If you're not in the intersection, it's less likely that something is going to happen. Wait with your front steer tires in the front crosswalk line. When you see your gap coming, you move forward. When the car on the other side that's in front of your gap, the front of that vehicle hits the stop line on the other side, then you drive straight into the intersection. When the car goes past, you turn in behind it and you make your left turn. Again, stay out of the intersection because if somebody runs the light, you're not there, you're not going to get T-boned. Sherry, my school says there is no parallel turning. I'm listening to you and went to another school to practice parallel parking. Sherry, but you're doing a CDL with a tractor trailer. It's one of the things, Sherry, you're going to have to figure out, and this goes back to what I was saying originally, is you need to figure out what the test center requires, okay? So the test center that I did CDL training in London, Ontario, required you to back around a corner on the right side. Vernon and Kelowna both required you to back up in a straight line for 50 feet. And Victoria was the only driving test center that required you to back up with a tractor trailer doing parallel parking. Or, yeah, you had to wiggle in and do a parallel park into a parking space. So the test center that you're going to do, my instructor tells me move up if I'm not in the intersection waiting to turn left. Yeah, okay, I disagree. Stay out of the intersection. Keep your front steer tires on the front crosswalk line at the edge of the intersection. Do not move into that intersection. There are too many driving instructors that are telling students to do it the wrong. It's not the best practices for defensive driving. And the other thing, Sherry, if you're in the intersection in a tractor trailer, you're not going to be able to get the gears that you need to get to be able to get that thing moving. If you're sitting back, you can get 2 or 3 gears before you make the turn, and you can get through the intersection faster in a tractor trailer. So I don't agree with that school of thinking in terms of tractor trailers. Elevator fan, flashing yellow arrows are becoming common in the US, and elevator fan, I think it's less confusing for drivers who are moving through an intersection when you have those yellow arrows controlling the turning at the intersections. David, there are some things you can't do in a road test, but you'll end up doing in regular driving after getting your license, such as speeding or not going all the way down the acceleration lane. David, I don't, keeping up with traffic flow, and I don't agree. If you do get up to speed, minimum highway speed, posted speed limit on an acceleration lane, then I do encourage you to, you can merge out at that juncture. But if you can use all the ramp, I do encourage you to use all the ramp for the purposes of getting out onto the highway safely. Mallory asks, just wondering which line is the front crosswalk line. It's the last painted line on the roadway before you enter the intersection, Mallory. And it's basically you're at the edge of the intersection. So where the two roads become one space, the two crossroads are sharing a box in the center. You're at the edge of that box before entering into the intersection. Lane, I have experienced struggles with speed control and maintenance on highway and smooth transitioning with lane changing. Any tips? Yes, and Corey will put up the video for you on lane changes, and that'll help you out with that. All right, so let's get over to the presentation here, and we'll get through that, and then I'll come back, and I'll spend the remainder of the hour answering questions about passing your driver's test and helping you with all of that. Okay, so here we go. Pass your driver's test first time. We'll answer all your questions about that and give you information. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, hauling freight between Canada and the United States. I became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997 because I was working as a truck driver over the road. So I was gone for a couple weeks at a time. I never really knew when I was going to be home. So in a bid to get off the road, I became a commercial driving instructor. Most of my career has been teaching semi-trucks, air brakes, logbooks, those types of things. Have taught bus drivers and worked as a trainer when I was going to school in Australia. 2006, graduated with my degree in legal history, which is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. My expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic, or the technical term is order maintenance, the order of society according to the laws set down in legislature. Greyhound and regional bus driver, early 2000s while I was going to university because I didn't have a scholarship and I had to come up with my own money to fund myself to go through university. That's another story. Started the Smart Drive Test online YouTube channel in 2015, and it has been wildly more successful than I could have ever imagined. Check out the autobiography. All the links are down in the description there. And these are new blogs that I've written this week. Would you pass the driver's test? This was in response to a survey I put up on the community tab a few weeks ago asking veteran drivers, those who have had their license for more than 6 months, if they thought they could pass a driver's test. And optimism bias is alive and well. 66% of respondents said that they in fact thought that they could pass a driver's test without studying. And I had to chuckle a little bit and thought, yeah, you're in for a huge surprise. Most people who've had their license for longer than 6 months and went back to do a driver's test could not do a driver's test. So have a look at that blog. Again, the link is down in the description. And then last week I did a live stream on electric vehicles and why electric vehicles won't work, and I put a blog up about that as well. You can find the link for that down in the description. And essentially the battery technology is not there yet. Most electric vehicles are 40% heavier than their gasoline counterparts, and this is going to lead to all kinds of problems with maintenance and decreased life of tires. So have a look at that blog as well, and Corey will put the links up for those, but the links are down in the description below the video here. First thing you got to do is you got to get a learner's, and this is for all classes of license for your CDL semi-truck license, cars and trucks. Has knowledge on signs, terminology such as complex intersections, painted islands, slip lanes, right-of-way. Those are all fair questions on your multiple choice tests. Corey will put up the video for you on how to pass your learner's test, and I'll give you more information about this. Questions about right-of-way and the driving task, all of these are on the multiple choice practice test questions. If you are going for your learners, do not read the driver's handbook cover to cover. The only thing that it is good for is curing insomnia. Okay, if you're having trouble sleeping, then yes, read it. But otherwise, go online, do the practice driving test questions. The practice driving test questions will use the practice driving test questions as a measure of your abilities and knowledge. Figure out where the gaps are. Go back, read the sections of the book that you don't know about, and then go back and do the practice driving test questions. When you're getting 80 to 90% consistently, then you can go in and write your learners and be confident that you're going to pass first time, because doing multiple choice questions is a skill as well. All right, road test, 4 components. Every class of license has these 4 components for a driver's test. Speed management. You must be able to manage your speed. You have to do the posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less for the purposes of your driver's test. Your control of your speed is linked to your forward scanning pattern. And if you're not adjusting your speed every 10 to 12 seconds, that tells the driving examiner that you are not scanning properly. Space management, you must have a 4 For cars, it's 2 to 3 second following distance. You have to stop so you can see the tires of the vehicle in front of you making clear contact with the pavement, approximately 1 vehicle length from the vehicle in front. You can't enter an intersection you can't clear. You must come to a complete stop at the correct stopping positions at intersections, behind the stop line, behind the crosswalk lines or sidewalk. Those two conditions don't exist. Then at the edge of the road where the two roads meet. Okay, you have to observe correctly, have a forward scanning pattern in place. You have to shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. And even in a large vehicle, doesn't matter. Every vehicle, when you change directions of that vehicle, mirror signal shoulder check. Those are your cardinal rules of a driver's test. If you fail to shoulder check, you will not pass your driver's test. Reversing, you have to look out through the back window. You can use a backup camera. You can use your mirrors, but your main line of sight is out through the back windows. For those doing commercial vehicles, you have to get out and do a walk around before you put the vehicle into reverse. Communication, the way that we communicate with other traffic is the position of our vehicle on the roadway, lights and signals, and then eye contact, hand gestures, and your horn. Use your horn sparingly in this day and age because it's seen as a sign of aggression. Slow speed maneuvers are going to get you to learn to drive faster. Doesn't matter which vehicle you're driving, whether it's a car or a semi-truck. You do slow speed maneuvers, backing up, reversing, going around corners, doing forward figure eights in a parking lot. All of this is going to give you better control of the vehicle. You're going to have mastery of the primary controls, the throttle, the brake, and the clutch if it's a manual car, and the steering wheel. And you need to work those things in combination. So slow speed maneuvers will teach you those things. For cars, on your driver's test, parallel parking, 3-point turn, stall parking, so backing into a parking space, 2-point reverse turn, and U-turns. Any one of these maneuvers can be asked of you on a driver's test. So if you go and say, oh, I don't have to parallel park, or I don't have to do 3-point turns, and that's what your friend told you, it's bupkis. Because again, it's up to the discretion of the driving examiner. If the driving examiner wants you to get you to do a 2-point reverse turn and tells you to do a 2-point reverse turn, yes, you can ask for clarification of what that is, but if you don't know how to back around a corner and then move off in the opposite direction, you're probably not going to be successful on your driver's test. So be ready, do the work. Requirements of a road test: holding the vehicle in its lane, observing and shoulder checking. And again, shoulder checking is critical to both passing a driver's test and keeping yourself safe after you get your driver's license. Responding to changing driving conditions, and when in doubt, if the traffic situation becomes overwhelming and there's too many things going on, simply stop. The traffic situation will change within a few moments, and then proceed. Okay, do not push through a traffic situation that you don't know how to respond to. Simply stop and wait. Okay, emergency vehicles and other unexpected events, and Corey's put up a lot of good videos here on how to pass your driver's test. Thank you for that, Corey. Emergency vehicles is just one of the many ways which is an automatic fail. Other unexpected events are yellow lights, grumpy old driving examiners, those types of things. And have a look at the video. Corey will put that up for you on unexpected events, and that will help you out. Abilities for a road test, and this is for every class of license. 2 hands on the steering wheel for the duration of the test. The only time you can take your hand off the steering wheel is when you're shifting gears. Most of you will not be doing it in a manual vehicle. Stopping in a line of traffic, as I said, stop back so you can see the tires of the vehicle in front, making clear contact with the pavement. Stopping at the correct position at controlled intersections. Stopping for yellow traffic lights. Yellow lights do not mean proceed with caution. It means stop if you can do so safely. If somebody's going to park in your trunk, in other words, if somebody's tailgating you and it's a yellow light, you're probably going to have to proceed through the intersection. But when you're proceeding through the intersection, make sure that you're scanning the intersection and you're covering the brake in case a hazard presents itself. Unfortunately, if you proceed through the intersection on a yellow and the examiner looks up and sees the traffic light turn red while you're in the intersection, unfortunately that is an automatic fail on a driver's test. You need to know the difference between controlled and uncontrolled intersections, and you need to understand right of way, which essentially means who goes first where. After you've been driving for a while, go back and revisit slow speed maneuvers. Again, this will give you a refresher. This will give you better understanding of parallel parking, reverse stall parking, and 3-point turn, which are the minimum 3 maneuvers that you need to know for the purposes of passing your driver's test. You can take driving lessons with a school. Okay, you can take a whole class, which is usually 10 lessons with a driving school, individual lessons, and then you can just take a mock driver's test. If you are not taking driving lessons, you're watching this video, after you get off the video, go and call a driving school and sign up for at least one practice test. The return on investment is really, really high. The other piece about driving schools, if you go to a driving school to learn how to drive, to learn how to pass a driver's test, know that it is a lot like going to university. For every hour of class that you do, you're expected to do 4 or 5 hours of practice driving outside of that hour of driving. Okay? 10 lessons with a driving instructor is not going to teach you how to drive and pass a driver's test. You might, but it's very unlikely. Okay, get as much practice as possible. Practice in different vehicles. You have your learners for 6 months to a year, depending on where you are, but it's minimum 6 months. You have lots of opportunities to drive different vehicles. Go with your uncle, go with your aunt, go with your mom, your dad, anybody who's driving. Say, listen, can I drive? And get as much driving as you can. Okay, practice in different environments. Drive at night, drive on the freeway, drive when it's raining, drive in the snow. Get as much practice as you can. Unfortunately, too many drivers who are going for a road test do not get very much practice, and I get in the vehicle with them, or somebody else, a driving examiner, they know that you simply don't have enough experience. Okay, unfortunately, sometimes bad drivers pass the driver's test, and good drivers are unsuccessful on passing a driver's test. This is simply just something that happens during driving tests. Nerves get the best of some drivers who've practiced a lot and have a high skill level, and some bad drivers go for their driver's test and everything goes swimmingly. Everything goes absolutely right. The traffic situation is absolutely ideal, and they end up passing their driver's test. It all depends. Okay, practice driver's test. As I said, if you're not taking driver training right now, go and book at least one lesson with a driving school and get an assessment on your abilities and skills, because the driving instructor will take you on the test route. He or she will get you to do the maneuvers where the driving examiner is going to get you to do the maneuvers, and they're going to give you feedback on the skills and abilities that you need to improve to be successful on your driver's test. Yes, it's going to cost you $100, $150, but it's better than failing the driver's test and then trying to rebuild your confidence and then finding the time to go and do it again. All right? Fundamentals. Learn the basics. Turning, signaling, communicating, observing, scanning patterns, and then space management. These are the fundamentals of any driver's test. Luck favors the prepared, as my favorite animated character says. Edna, you must master the basics and prepare for the opportunity to pass your driver's test. On test day, get a good night's sleep, eat breakfast, bring your documentation, glasses, and money, and yes, bring 2 or 3 pieces of identification. Don't forget your license. Okay, unless signs prohibited at the test center, we're going to take your test back into the parking stall and keep going until you're told to stop by the driving examiner, because you will make mistakes. Do not perseverate on the mistake, okay? The examiner may not even have seen the mistake. Just simply keep going until he or she tells you to stop. Your job is to take away the driving examiner's right to fail you. Nothing less, nothing more. That's simply all you have to do to pass your driver's test. Good luck in your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Kelsey, of course, when you pass your test, every new driver will pick up bad habits like rolling stops and speeding. Yes, Kelsey, they will. And that's why I said, and I kind of had a chuckle about that 66% of drivers thought that they could pass a driver's test. And that is simply not true. If I had to guess about how many drivers could go in and take a driver's test, probably 15%. 12 to 15% might pass a driver's test the first time without any training if they went in and did that. And I was teaching this guy, and he was the perfect example of somebody who was taking his CDL license, thought that he could pass his driver's test without any driver training. He would come in for a 4-hour lesson and then go and take the test. And he had done this 3 times. He'd failed the CDL driver's test 3 times. And he'd come in with me. And so we're out for the 4-hour practice before the test. We come up to a T intersection, and the bottom of the T was off to the right. And we're coming up, it's a red light, and I instructed him to turn right at the red light. And he comes to the intersection and just drives around the corner, didn't even stop, and I started laughing. He said, "What's so funny?" And I said, "The last time I checked, red lights mean stop." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "The last time I checked, red light means stop." And I said, if you're going to make a right at a traffic light that is red, you have to come to a complete stop, give way to other traffic, and then make your turn. He barely slowed down before he went around the corner. So that's just one incident of people who have terrible habits in driving. And I mean, shoulder checking. I'm guessing that 95% of drivers who turn never shoulder check. Okay, it's the first skill that is lost after drivers get their license. The first skill. And it just seems that every driving instructor, everything on the internet about driving is teaching drivers to be mediocre and to be lazy. Because we had a smart driver here a few weeks ago who said, "I just rely on my sensors. I don't shoulder check." And that's how people are. And then, of course, you've got the Society of Automotive Engineers who've got a video out that you can adjust your mirrors to eliminate blind spots on your vehicle. And that's simply not true. You cannot adjust the mirrors in any way on your vehicle to eliminate blind spots. The only way that you can eliminate blind spots is by turning your head and looking. That's the only way that you can see into your blind areas. You cannot adjust your mirrors to eliminate those blind areas around your vehicle, because it depends on how big you are, where you sit in the vehicle, where the pillars are in the vehicle, those posts that hold up all the glass in the vehicle. And then it depends on how your vehicle is situated on the roadway, and it depends on the geography through which you're driving. All of that is going to depend on the configuration of the blind areas around your vehicle. So, shoulder checking. It's imperative to be able to pass a driver's test that you shoulder check twice for every turn, minimum, and then to keep yourself safe after you get your license. And why, not shoulder checking is to driving, what not checking to see whether a weapon is loaded is to gun safety. You would never pick up a handgun and not check to see if it was loaded. Why would you move a 3,000-pound vehicle at speed, change direction, and not check to see if there's somebody in the blind areas around your vehicle? It doesn't make any sense to me. So shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. Joe, when COVID hit Ontario, they nixed parallel parking 3-point turns on the G test. At the moment, they're still nixed, I think, but you still need the slow maneuvers to get your G2. Yeah, Joe, they did. And, of course, they didn't talk to me, because if it was up to me, they got it completely backwards. Any person can get in a car and drive it straight up and down the road. What they should have done was they should have set up a course with just 3-point turns, parallel parking, and reverse stall parking, and they should have got drivers to do just that. And if they could do that, then they passed their driver's test. The driving in traffic, that's the easy part. The slow speed maneuvers, that'll really tell you whether somebody can drive or not. So that's what they should have done. Connor, I'm glad to talk to you, Rick. My steering wheel is less tight when I'm turning. Connor, when you mean less tight, do you mean like there's play in it, that it doesn't move, or it doesn't turn the wheels correctly or something? That sounds like something that you might need to get a mechanic or somebody else to have a look at. Sorry, not mechanic, automotive technician. I can hear my brother yelling at me right now. Gita, how do I get centered my car? Look farther down the road, follow the other traffic, look for landmarks along the road. All of that will help you to get your vehicle centered on the roadway. Colton, when did you last drive a cab over semi? Colton, when was the last time I drove a cab over semi? Off the top of my head, the last time I drove a cab over semi was when I was working for Burlington Motor Carriers in the 90s. That was the last time that I drove a cab over semi. Can't remember. It's been a very long time since I've driven one. Epic, to pass a road test, go for a mock test on your car, motorcycle, and commercial vehicles that you will be testing on. What do you think of the United States allowing teenagers to drive semi-trucks? Epic, what do I think of that? Let me think about that Epic, and I'll just remind me, and I'll answer that. I'll give it a bit of thought here. Elevators not using your horn sparingly, an automatic fail in a driver's test. It depends on what's going on, elevator, in terms of the horn. So, for example, say that you're in a residential area and there's somebody walking down the road in front of you. You would just like tap your horn to indicate to them that you're there behind them, to warn them that you're there. Then you would use your horn. But if, you know, somebody pulls out in front of you on a driver's test from a service station and cuts you off, and you get on the horn and you're like, yeah, you can be guaranteed it'll be a short trip back to the driving test center, because that's just road rage and aggression if you're like nailing the horn. But if you just like, you know, somebody's sitting at a green traffic light and they're not going because they're probably looking at their phone, if you just like meep, just say, hey, the light turned green, can we go? Then that's okay. And that's what I mean by just using your horn sparingly. No, you won't fail a driver's test for that. Fernie, what cars do you think are safest? Fernie, just about any vehicle, any modern vehicle is going to be safe, but it's going to depend on what kind of crash you get into. We've talked about this previously about T-bone crashes, and I just actually watched a video last week. 20% of traffic fatalities are due to T-bone crashes, and this is due to physical limitations of the cars, okay? We've eliminated or significantly reduced fatalities due to head-on crashes, which at one time were some of the most dangerous crashes you could have on the roadway. Now it's T-bone crashes because of the physical limitations and just the physical setup. So essentially what a T-bone is that you've got a car going this way or this way, and it gets T-boned. It gets hit by another car here, so it forms the shape of a T. The problem with T-bone crashes is that they're on the side of the vehicle. There is nothing there to protect vehicle occupants, okay? With front crashes, in comparison, you've got the engine and the radiator and all that hood sticking out the front, which acts as a crumple zone and disperses the energy of the two vehicles. In a T-bone crash, there's nothing here. There's just the door. And the door is this thick. There's a piece of metal skin on the outside, and there's some plastic on the inside. The other piece about T-bone crashes is it's right at the vehicle occupant's midsection and their vital organs. So there's a lot of bleeding and hemorrhaging. And this is why many vehicle occupants don't survive the crash if it's a T-bone crash. There just isn't enough in the vehicle to protect vehicle occupants. So do your research. There's a lot of information with crash testing that's being done in the United States on automobiles and those types of things, and that'll allow you to pick up one of the safer vehicles for you. Apparently as well, the other thing about it, and there was another video over on Scotty Kilmer's channel. He was talking about electric vehicles, and we were talking about this last week, and this is one point that I didn't make. Electric vehicles are 40% heavier than their gasoline counterparts. 40% heavier because they have more mass are going to cause more damage in a collision, especially if you get, say, for example, the Ford F-150 Lightning, which weighs 6,500 pounds. It weighs 3.5 tons. It weighs over 3 tons. You get that vehicle and it hits a Fiat or a Civic, it's going to do a lot of damage. So it's going to depend on what kind of crash you're in, whether you have a safe vehicle or not. 13 car, please answer this question. If I have a small rear door window missing, will I still be able to use the vehicle? Rear door window missing, so the window's not there at all? I can't answer that question because it's going to depend on the discretion of the examiner. Okay, my suggestion would be go down to the glass shop and get it replaced. It's going to cost you $100 to get that piece of glass replaced. I would go and get the piece of glass replaced before you take it in for a driving test. Colton, yes, thank you. 3.25 tons. Thank you for that. Joe, when I was teaching my son, I had him check the blind zones while he was still practicing in high school parking lot. Well stopped, he got it right away. Now he never fails to shoulder check, and that is awesome. I'm glad that you instilled that in him, Joe. Makes me feel better that, yes, there is hope that we can get people to shoulder check after they get their driver's license. David, there's a myth out there that you can't wear sunglasses during the driving test during the summer, and that's just simply not the case, and I cannot agree with you more, David. If you need sunglasses, wear sunglasses on bright days, especially in the wintertime when there's snow on the ground and you get that reflection off the snow. You need to wear sunglasses. Okay? I have to wear sunglasses. If I go out on a bright day, I am completely blinded by the light. So I need to wear sunglasses. If driving examiners tell you to do that, say what my mom says. Just tell them to go pound salt. You have to wear sunglasses. And Corey will put up the video for you on moving your head. And I've talked about this before. And you know, you get in driving instructors' vehicles and they've got mirrors all over the place. And it's like, oh, we're watching your eyes move. Okay. You can't drive any car without moving your head. Okay? If you're turning, you're looking, you're scanning, you're looking, you're moving your head. Okay? You have to move your head to drive safely. You can't just move your eyes. Your eyes will not look in the wing mirror over there. Your eyes won't move to look up in the center mirror. Your eyes won't look over there to shoulder check. You got to move your head. Okay? And if you have problems with your neck and your head, some people have physical limitations. If you have those physical limitations, then move from the hips. Okay? Move from the hips and look. All right? Do that. And if you have physical limitations, inform the driving examiner that you have those physical limitations. If you have eyesight problems, you know, you have 2100 vision and you're going to get your driver's license like Jen, and Corey will put up that video for you as well. They will know about that because you had to have your eyes tested to go and take your driver's test. So know that for the purposes of taking your driver's test. If you have a physical limitation, you have a learning disability, those types of things, this is all information that you should give to the driving examiner before going out for your test. Lawrence, should you avoid left turns even if it means taking the longer route? I read this is what UPS drivers are instructed to do. Lawrence, learn how to do left-hand turns safely. Yes, it's one of the things that UPS does. It's also one of the things that Uber is talking about, that they're trying to eliminate left-hand turns because people get into crashes. And as I was talking about previously with T-bone crashes, which usually happen on left-hand turns, people misjudge the gap or they're in the intersection when they shouldn't be in the intersection. 20% of traffic fatalities are T-bone crashes. Yes, if you can avoid a left-hand turn, but then that negates environmentalism because now you're going to make 3 right turns to make 1 turn. Learn how to do left-hand turns better. Again, UPS is able to schedule their routes, and they have been scheduling their routes for 50 years to try and eliminate left-hand turns because it's not efficient. And also, yes, left-hand turns are high risk, as seen by Uber and every trucking company in the United States of America. A lot of crashes happen on left-hand turns, but learn how to do them safely, and that way you're going to keep yourself out of trouble. As I say again and again and again, do not be in the intersection waiting to make your left-hand turn. Wait at the edge of the intersection when the gap presents itself, then move into the intersection only then. Because if you're sitting in the intersection and somebody runs the light, you're going to get hit. So, we're driving personal vehicles, we can't avoid left-hand turns. We need to make left-hand turns. We don't have the luxury of having 50 drops and having computers that are specifically designed to plan out routes for us and those types of things. UPS, Uber, all these big trucking companies, they can do this, but in our personal vehicles, it's not a reality for us. So learn how to do left-hand turns better. Mallory's making a wrong turn and automatic failing your driver's test. No big deal. Mallory, if you make a wrong turn on a driver's test, it is unlikely that you're going to fail your driver's test. If you're doing everything else right and you just make a mistake, the examiner says to go left, and instead of going left at the next intersection, you make a right turn, it's up to the examiner to get you back. It's not likely that you're going to fail a driver's test for that, and you probably shouldn't. But I can't speak for all driving examiners. I can't speak for all situations you might find yourself in during a driver's test, so there's a possibility that you might. CS, in a roundabout, should I come to a complete stop before entering if there is a car inside. Yes. CS, yes. Roundabouts can be a little tricky when you're first learning how to use them because you have to be ready to go and you have to be ready to come to a stop. If there are vehicles in the roundabout rather, then yes, you have to give way to all traffic in the roundabout and you may have to come to a stop before you can find that gap. Epic says another thing about driver's tests around the world is that selected jurisdictions do require you to take a hazard perception test than the actual written test. I wonder why US and Canada don't do that. Epic, it's simply because of time and resources. They simply don't have enough driving examiners to administer that hazard perception test. So going back to Epic's question about teenagers driving semi-trucks, I don't think there's an issue with it. I think that, once you're 17, 18 years old, they have a lot of restrictions in place and a lot of abilities to monitor teenagers. So I think that younger people driving big trucks isn't going to be a big deal. I mean, we had, a generation ago, everybody grew up on a farm and had been driving combines and farm equipment and tractors and those types of things. I think that it's not going to have an issue with any of that. Gita, I'm 5 feet and just started learning to drive, so we'll need to adjust my sitting, and how means we'll go high without I'm not able to see out front. Okay, so Gita, yes, definitely use a pillow or something else that you need to sit on for the seat so that you can see, because as you said, you're only 5 feet tall, so that's going to help you out for sure. Sherry, I'm in Toronto. There are many rules and regulations for trucks, but these are so many lanes in the city. Derry and Gorway driving in a single lane and spreads out to 5 lanes. Yes, and most of the time, as you've already learned, Sherry, is that you're going to have to stay over into the right-hand lane, the slow lane with the big truck. The other piece about the big truck, and I'll tell you this story, somebody contacted me before Christmas to take them up for a Class 3 license. The long and short of it was they were pulling camper trailers into the United States from British Columbia. They got into the state of Ohio, and the state trooper had a mobile scale set up. It turned out that he got pulled onto the scale, and he was 197 pounds overweight. At least this is what the state troopers determined. British Columbia is the only province of all the states and all the provinces that has a heavy trailer endorsement. So you can get a heavy trailer endorsement license here in the province, and it will allow you to haul a trailer over 10,000 pounds, because every state, every province has a restriction on a car license that you can only haul a trailer up to 10,000 pounds. The heavy trailer endorsement in the province of British Columbia allows you to haul a trailer loaded with more than 10,000 pounds on it, so long as neither the truck, the towing unit, the truck, nor the trailer have air brakes. So he had a heavy trailer endorsement license. And he tried to explain to the state troopers that he had the required license to be able to pull this truck and trailer, which basically had 3 camper trailers on it. But they deemed that his class of license, according to his class of license, he was 197 pounds over. So they put him out of service. They had to get another driver to come, take the load, and then he came back home. So he went to get his Class 3 license. And so I sent him the information, the videos and whatnot that he had to look at to do his pre-trip inspection for the Class 3. So we get down there, we get to the test center, and he already had his air brake ticket. And the truck that we had air brakes on it. And the receptionist who was processing him to go out for his test said, oh, he's already got his air brake ticket. He won't have to do that for the purposes of his driver's test. And I looked and I went, well, that's a little bit weird. I said, okay, I've never heard of that before, that somebody has an air brake ticket that they don't have to do the pre-trip for the air brakes. I said, can I clarify that with a driving examiner? And so they said, yeah. And I said, so they went off and they went and got the driving examiner, and the driving examiner comes out. And I said to her, I said, listen, he already has his air brake ticket. Does that mean that he doesn't have to do the air brake pre-trip inspection on the vehicle? The driving examiner looks at me and she goes, absolutely not. That vehicle has to be checked and has to be safe to be taken out on the roadway. And I just walked away and I just shook my head and I'm just like, yeah, he's not going to pass. He's not going to pass. And unfortunately, he didn't pass. He didn't pass the pre-trip inspection. He passed the drive, but he didn't pass the pre-trip inspection because he hadn't done the work that he needed to do for the pre-trip inspection. First and foremost, he was surprised when he found out that he, in fact, had to verbalize and say out loud everything that he was checking on the truck. You know, for example, alternator, secure not damaged, belts, proper tension, turbocharger, secure not damaged, no cracks or leaks in the side of the engine block, oil pan's not leaking, steer rod, you know, all those things on the vehicle. He was surprised, and so she told me that at the end. And I mean, she was even nice. I mean, yes, she was a bit of a she was down the line in terms of what she expected in terms of the test. But she did allow him an extra 15 minutes to complete his pre-trip inspection, because for a Class 3, a dump truck, you're only allowed a half an hour, 30 minutes to complete your pre-trip inspection. And she did give him 45 minutes to do his pre-trip inspection, but unfortunately he wasn't successful. Sherry, but it's pulling over from the turning lane, so you have to pull over 2 more lanes. Is there no shortcut for this maneuver? Must the driver go lane by lane to get into the curb lane? Sherry, yes. Well, you can just leave your signal on, move across 1 lane, pause, go forward a little bit, so there's 3 more flashes on the signal, and then move over again. Okay, so you can just leave your signal on, move to the next lane, 3 flashes, drive straight forward, check, do your checks, and then move over to the next lane. So that's how you can do that. You don't have to, every lane, turn your signal off and then turn your signal on and do it again. You can just move across 2 or 3 lanes, but you got to do it so that you have minimum 3 flashes when you're in each lane, and do all your checks before moving to the next lane. My friend Big Mac Sam is here from the Bronx. Hello, my friend. How are you? Just got here. And thank you for encouraging smart drivers to hit the button. Pass your driver's test first time course package is available over at the Smart Drive Test website. Guaranteed to pass your driver's test first time. You can pick that up for about $38 over there. And as well, because it's winter time, we throw in both the defensive and winter driving smart courses. Check that out. Corey will put up the link for you on that as well. Corey, not sure, would agree, but I may look into getting a fluffy wheel cover. Might help. Awesome. No, you know, if a fluffy wheel cover works for you, hey, why not? I think they're awesome, especially if you get a pink one. You know, they look really great. Gabrielle, I want to use a pillow too, but instructor said it would take my feet further from the pedals. Gabrielle, I'm not sure about that, because you should be able to tilt the bottom, the base of the seat forward and back like this. On some vehicles you can do that. Other vehicles will as well allow the seat to go up and down and raise that for you to help you out. Okay, so if you have to use a pillow, you have to use a pillow, okay? Unfortunately, some of us are vertically challenged, and I know about that because I was 5 feet tall until I was almost 19. So yes, I know about your being vertically challenged. Eminem, my dad got me a Tacoma 2007 to practice, and I can't see the hood of the truck. I can just see the top part of the steering wheel. It'd be possible to change the seat to an electric seat. It is possible to do that. You would need somebody with a little bit of ability and skill to help you to do that. But you can, again, sit on a pillow for the purposes of learning how to drive. Ranger, took my test last month and your videos really helped me. Thank you. You are most welcome, my friend. So happy we could help out. Lawrence, what can you say about the diverging diamond interchange in Niagara QEW? Lawrence, they have those in other places in the United States, and I haven't been through one yet, but they seem to work, and they seem to eliminate the left-hand turns at interchanges. So again, it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, that large companies, UPS, Uber, other places are trying to reduce the number of left-hand turns because it is in fact a high-risk maneuver. So if we can, through engineering, eliminate left-hand turns at interchanges, it's going to reduce the number of crashes. So I think it's a good thing. But I don't know for sure. I would need to do some research on that. Summers, do you lose points for taking your hands off the wheel on a driving test? Example, my hands are sweaty and I need to wipe them. Summer, if you're sitting stopped at a traffic light, that is the time that I would wait for you to do that, okay? Don't do it while you're driving for sure. You know, you could momentarily just take one hand off the wheel, wipe it on your pants, and then put it right back on the steering wheel. You can do that. Colton, roundabouts are a good place to run out of gas if you don't signal your direction change. Yes. Joe, I'm seeing more and more drivers in Toronto area waiting just outside the intersection before turning left. It's catching out slowly, but it's catching on. And Joe, I'm happy to hear that, because that is best defensive driving practice. As long as you're sitting there and you're waiting, you're calm awareness about what's going on, you're waiting for your gap, and as soon as you see that gap coming behind the vehicle in front and the car hits that stop line, then you start driving straight into the intersection, boom, and you make your turn. It reduces the amount of time that you're in the intersection and makes your left-hand turns safer. Sherry, you made great suggestions regarding Class A driving classes and avoided all schools that gave more class time than driving time. Awesome. Glad we could help out, Sherry. That's really great. Gabrielle, thanks. Rick will use a pillow, only 5'3". Brilliant. Awesome. Joe, as my dance teacher says over and over, practice doesn't make perfect. It's perfect practice that makes perfect. Yes, and that is true. That is so true. You can practice the same thing over and over again, but it may not be the right thing. Okay, and this is the thing that I'm trying to fix with defensive driving is that we're trying to make smarter defensive driving for people to keep them safe and keep them healthy so they can make it home to their families and loved ones at the end of the day. Sherry, lane hand turns were not high risk, or were they? My father was a truck driver and complained about left-hand turns. Yeah, Sherry. 20, 30 years ago, they weren't crunching numbers and doing statistics on crash analysis, and they have, these big companies now have a lot of information and a lot of data banks that are full of these kinds of information, so they can now start crunching the numbers and figure out that if they can eliminate left-hand turns, it makes them safer. But again, it comes back to driver training. They're not investing in driver training. We in North America do not invest in driver training, not in the way that the Europeans do in any stretch of the imagination. And the other place that is not investing in driver training is South Africa. I was watching a news interview tonight. They were interviewing somebody who does driver training for tractor trailers. Just before Christmas, they had a crash where a driver hauling fuel went under a low underpass, knocked the gas valve off. The truck exploded, killing 34 people. And I could tell from the interview that their driver training is minimal at best. Absolutely minimal, which just kind of was like, oh, that's, he couldn't even talk about specifics. He's talking about low bridges and overpasses and that the driver should have known and been able to plan the route. And I'm thinking, he can't even tell me what the height of the truck is. Like, he couldn't even come up with that number. Whereas, in North America, it's very easy. It's 13 feet 6 inches for your truck or 4.15 meters. If your truck is higher than 13 feet 6 inches or 4.15 meters, it is too high. And you need a permit to be able to pull that. It's an oversized permit. You need an oversized permit if your vehicle is bigger than that. So, know that, Sherry. You're getting your semi-truck license. That's one of the numbers you have to have in your head. 4.15 meters, 13 feet 6 inches. Your vehicle cannot be higher than that. And that goes for all the people out there who are getting a license to drive an RV. You're pulling a trailer, camper trailer, all those types of things, okay? Stay away from trees and buildings. They like to take bites out of trucks and camper trailers, okay? So just to reiterate, 4.15 meters, 13 feet 6 inches. If the sign doesn't say that, don't go under it. Marshall, I also watched a lot of your videos and they are great. Just want to say keep making more of this helpful, useful content. We certainly will. Thank you for your kind words, Marshall, and all the best, my friend. Thank you so much. Cole, do you know if they're still doing the modified G test in Ontario? And Cole, yes, they are. There's no slow speed maneuvers required for the full G in Ontario. So get there quick, get it done. Elevator, failure to follow instruction is an automatic fail in a driver's test. Elevator, it depends on which instructions you fail to follow. If it's simply a misdirection, it's not likely that you're going to fail your driver's test. So, for example, if they told you to go right and you made a mistake and went to go left because you're just so nervous, that's not going to be a fail on your driver's test. However, you know, if you are unable to adapt your driving to changing traffic conditions, then yes, that's going to be a fail on your driver's test. Know that. My friend Sam, if I was an examiner, I would let that go. The dying of the sweaty hands, I mean. Awesome. Marshall, you're taking your test in 2 days. What would you say is the number one rule to remember when taking your test? Marshall, the number one rule is shoulder check. Shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. 2 shoulder checks every time you're turning the vehicle, changing directions of the vehicle. So mirror signal shoulder check. Just get that in your head. You're changing directions of the vehicle, you're turning, shoulder check, shoulder check. Okay, and you got to move your head. You got to move your head to observe. Shoulder checking is the number one thing on the driver's test, right behind knowing what is on the test. Okay, so do you have to parallel park with cones? Do you have to do your, what else am I trying to say? Yes, parallel parking with cones. Are you doing the Ohio maneuverability test? Do you do that at the test center? You do it out on the road. So figure out what is required at your test center. For example, where Sam does the driver's test there in the Bronx, there's no office. You just pull up along the curb. The driving examiner comes out, gets in the vehicle, and takes you for a driving test, and you come back and park along the curb. Other places, other test centers will actually have reserved parking and an office and those types of things that you can go into and whatnot. So it's going to depend on where you take your driver's test as to what is in fact on the driver's test. So know that. Joe, order maintenance, love it. Rick, never heard this phrase up here in the Great White North. Must be an Aussie saying. Actually, no. For those of us who study policing, Joe, it's actually a policing term. It's one of the things that police do, which is order maintenance. This is that they keep order in society, right? We keep pedestrians on the sidewalk. We keep cars on the roadway. Neither shall the twin mix or something like that. And deterrence policing, that's another thing. We do that very well in America. Deterrence policing, where somebody gets caught for drunk driving and then we plaster it all over every social media platform, every news agency to deter other people from doing drink driving as well and getting the same penalties. That's how they do deterrence policing, because they can't possibly catch everybody who's drink driving. And unfortunately, drink driving is actually on the rise. Self-reported drink driving is actually on the rise, and the excuses for it remain the same. You know, wasn't going that far, didn't think that I was drunk, and didn't think that I would get caught. Those are the reasons for the increase in self-reported drink driving. CS, if I'm waiting to turn at a stop sign and a pedestrian waves their hand for me to go and I'm allowed to go, or should I keep waiting for them? CJ, if a pedestrian waves you on and they're standing on the sidewalk and they're back from the edge of the sidewalk, then I would probably suggest that you proceed, okay? Because otherwise, if you're standing there waiting, you're going to be waiting too long and you're going to miss the opportunity. So in my experience, I would just suggest that you go. Marshall, awesome. Thanks for the advice. How much is too much for shoulder checking? So Marshall, basically you want to do 2 shoulder checks for every turn, every time you move the direction, okay? If you're longer than that at an intersection, so say you come up half a block before the turn, you shoulder check, you get up to the turn, and then you're waiting there for a while. So you would do another shoulder check just to make sure that there hasn't been any pedestrians or bicycles that have come up, and then move up, and you're just about ready to go. Just a quick shoulder check, and then proceed with your turn. Cole, when you're doing an uphill park, does your tires have to hit the curb? Because on my G2 test, that was the only thing that the examiner said that I did wrong. Cole, yes. Uphill with a curb, downhill with a curb. The tires ideally should rest on the concrete curb to hold the vehicle in the event that the parking brake and the transmission let go, and then the vehicle will still stay there. It's not going to roll away on you and crash down a hill. Sherry Lee, maintaining order. No, not maintaining, maintenance. Maintenance. Order maintenance is what it's called. Order maintenance policing. All right. Joe, absolutely great live stream tonight, Rick. Loads of great safety driving tips. Have a fabulous week. And you as well, my friend. All the best, Joe. Take care. And again, just to wind up here. Pass your driver's test first time. Course package, guaranteed to pass your driver's test first time. Available over at the Smart Drive Test website for about 38 bucks. And we throw in both the winter and defensive driving smart courses as a bonus. Corey will put the link up for that. You can also check down in the description there and find that. Marshall, do you shoulder check twice with your left and right turns? Yes, you do, Marshall, for both turns. So approximately half a block from the turn and then immediately before the turn. Corey will put up the video for you on shoulder checking, and that'll show you how to do that and do it correctly for the purposes of passing your driver's test. Excellent. Just making sure I got all the questions here. Gabrielle, do you recommend slow speed maneuvers for help with turns? Gabrielle, absolutely. All those slow speed maneuvers will help you with your turns and mastering the primary controls, the steering wheel, the gas, and the brake. So yes, if you can do slow speed maneuvers, you can parallel park well, you can back into a parking spot well, and you can do your 3-point turns. Your turning in a forward direction is going to be greatly and tremendously improved. All right, so we'll leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much for your great questions, your participation in the live stream. If you have any questions, leave a comment down in the comment section there, and we'll get back to you and help you out with passing your driver's test first time. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.